Dr. Joe Congini, Sports Medicine Center, Akron Children's Hospital, on board with us this morning. Dr. Joe, what do you have for us today?
Thanks for having me. I wanted to talk about, one of the most important ligaments in the body as far as sports is concerned. It affects sport quite a bit, and again, it's in the spotlight, and that is the ligament in the elbow called the ulnar collateral ligament. The big, thick, triangular ligament. We talk about it all summer, and we talk about all these pitchers who, even from the high school level up through college and professional, it has a big effect on how teams do and who wins what, because that ligament is very commonly injured in baseball. We talk about spin rate and velocity, velo, and all that kind of stuff. But it reared its ugly head in the last week, and a lot of people are asking questions about it in football. And we know that in football it's really important, and it may have a lot to say about the college football playoff system this year, as in the games of the weekend, one of the better quarterbacks in the country from the University of Georgia, Carson Beck, appeared to have a UCL injury. This is exactly the mechanism. The mechanism of how he was injured is how it gets hurt in football quarterbacks. It's in the inside of the elbow. The ligament gets stretched or torn when the arm is in the throwing position, and it's hyperextended and pulled backwards. It can be a partial tear or a stretch injury. Stretch injury, grade 1, grade 2, partial tear, grade 3, complete tear. Of course, and rightly so, people at Georgia are not commenting on the issue with where Carson Beck is, but he is going around the country getting second opinions, and so we assume that there is some structural injury, structural damage to that ligament, and it may have a role to play in the playoff system. And so I did want to go back in time just a little bit. You know, I love to, because you're so amazing, ask some trivia questions. And, of course, this had a very big role in the NFL 2 years ago, January of 2023, in a playoff game where there was already one injured quarterback, and a second quarterback injured his UCL, tore his UCL, and was unable to play in that game. They ended up having to play a non-quarterback, and that was odd. Do you remember what quarterback that was that injured his UCL 2 years ago?
Yeah, wasn't that Brock Purdy of the 49ers?
Yeah, no problem. You nail them all the time. Brock Purdy was the quarterback. He came back and threw 4 very short passes, and they tried different things, and they're talking about rehab and other things. In other football players, you will see this quite a bit. People tear the UCL linemen quite a bit. If you look at almost any game, you'll see from high school, not as many, college and pro, you'll see a lot of linemen or other players wearing a big hinged brace. When they get close to stability with that ligament, they can play with a brace, kind of like an MCL on your knee. But you can't play quarterback with one of these big hinged braces. And so if he is unstable and can't throw the ball with velocity at all, or his normal velocity, it's going to be hard for Carson Beck to play. So we don't know the extent of the injury, but it did rear its ugly head again. One more trivia question. Okay, Ray, can I ask one more?
I'll give it a shot, my friend.
Okay, this is a real toughie. You've got to be a Cleveland sports fan. You've got to be old, and you got to have nothing else to do with your wife, your life, as my wife says about my my knowledge base. But Bernie Kosar, the quarterback of the Browns, they were on a pretty good run. The Browns were on a good run in 86, 87. In the beginning of 1988, really looked like the team to beat. And early in September, the Browns quarterback was hit exactly as Carson Beck was hit this week and injured his UCL. You don't happen to remember what team that was against, do you?
I'll take a try and say the Jets.
It was the Chiefs.
Oh,
but you
okay.
It's amazing. And you're too young for that. I mean, you're forgetting that. But that's all the way back to 1988 in the Chiefs game. And there was all this in Cleveland sports of who missed the block on the blitz and all this kind of stuff. It really ended up on a year, you know how when quarterbacks go down, the team just never really kind of fired on all cylinders. Bernie kept trying to come back from this and other things. But UCL is a big injury to quarterbacks. not as big a deal at other positions where they can have surgery, or if it's a partial tear, possibly play in a brace. But the UCL is rearing its ugly head in sports, and we'll keep an eye on what happens with Carson Beck, and we'll keep your audience up to date with everything, because this is a very well-informed audience with you as the leader. But one more thing I wanted to say, Ray, is can I say a goodbye to one of my boyhood idols and heroes, and that is Rocco Domenico Calavito. I actually got to meet Rocky. He was the godfather of one of my cousins. And Rocky was, for a lot of boys growing up in Cleveland in the early 60s, mid-60s, he was our hero. And he passed away yesterday at 91 years of age.
Yeah, that's for sure. Earlier this morning, we had Bob DiBiasio on with us, who was instrumental in getting that statue in Little Italy. And Joe, coming up in just a couple of minutes, Terry Pluto's on board with us, who, of course, put the book together, The Curse of Rocky Calavito.
That's right. Hey, he was in my book, too, The Cleveland's Bitter Pill, from 9 years ago, because we talked about those, both he and Bernie. So it goes throughout Cleveland sports. But keep an eye on the injuries of these next couple of weeks. It should be really exciting time with the new playoff system and the NFL playoffs. Unfortunately, our home team will not be participating in the playoffs this year.
You got it. All right, Joe. Thanks as always, my friend. Always appreciate the time.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Have a great week.
You too. Dr. Joe Conjani, Sports Medicine Center, Akron Children's Hospital, on board with us.